Now, across Texas, the issue is...
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. And this is Texas, the issue is.
The stalemate over what type of property tax cut should be passed at the Texas Capitol continues. The political drama intensified a few days ago with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick challenging Governor Greg Abbott to a debate. Now, the chances of that actually happening are pretty slim. So we took another look at the key points that Abbott and Patrick recently made during separate appearances, but on the same stage at the Texas Public Policy Foundation here in Austin. The issue is now presents what we think the great property tax debate could look like.
I invite Governor Abbott to a Lincoln Douglas style debate.
Governor, will you accept Lieutenant Governor Patrick's challenge?
So when it comes to property taxes, what really needs to be done is to focus on reaching an agreement.
I know the governor must be on our side with this. I can't imagine he wouldn't be.
We're going to get it taken care of before we go on to other issues to make sure we address everything, but we may be here a while.
So we have $17.6 billion. Again, I bring facts, I bring data, I bring numbers.
What we want to achieve in the state of Texas is to eliminate your property taxes. Make them go away.
All compression saves you $710 on average. If you do 17.6 in all compression, 710. If you do 2/3 compression, again, compression's fine. If you do 2/3 compression and add homestead for the other third, look, $1,416.29. Take a photo of that.
And so what I say we do is we use that $17 billion to drive down your property tax rates. If we do that, that will cut your property tax rate per school M&O by 29%. That will put us on a pathway where in the ensuing sessions, we will be able to get to zero for your property tax rate for your school district property taxes.
To end property taxes through compression, we would have to come up with $55 billion.
We must go big. We must dream big, dream the possibility that we can eliminate property taxes in Texas.
Now, how much is $55 billion? It's 38.2% of our entire budget. You'd have to cut school funding. You'd have to cut medical funding. You'd have to cut law enforcement. You'd have to cut everything. You can't have 40% roughly of your budget in compression to get rid of all property taxes.
Now, some people say, well, gosh, we just can't afford it. There, like I said before, there have been doubters.
So you'd have to almost double the sales tax to pay for that. Now, there'll be some people out there who say, oh, yeah, you charge me 12 cents. Charge me 12% instead of 6%. Remember, plus 2 cents local. So your sales tax now is about 8, and a quarter it would go to 14 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Texas has the #1 fastest growing economy in the United States of America. Our economy is now more than $2.3 trillion a year. Think about this. We're trying to spend $17 billion this session out of an economy that produces $2.3 trillion a year.
I don't think there's a vote to increase, Sherry, the sales tax, a half a cent.
Do the math. We're seeking to use 0.007% of our whole GDP to drive down property taxes just this session. $17 billion divided by $2.35 trillion is less than 0.1% of our gross domestic product. We can do it.
It eventually will have taxes go up because we can't control the tax rate then at the local level. But the speaker wanted it on all businesses, all properties, homesteads, all residences, all shopping centers, everything.
We know the economy is going to go up, the economy is going to go down. We also know that we have hundreds of thousands or more people putting into our sales tax revenue every single year. Similarly, we have a franchise tax in the state of Texas. You know, those businesses that are coming into the state, they're paying more in franchise taxes every single year.
I can't imagine the governor will say to 5.7 million homeowners, you're not going to get a homeowner's exemption.
First thing we do is to return your taxes to you by driving down your property tax rate until it gets to zero.
Now, the arguments are compelling, but neither seem to really add up for me, which is why my word for that debate is voodoo. Stephen, what's your word?
First off, I want to say props to the graphics team, but my one word is hyphenated, tug of war.
Greg, pay up. What's your word?
All right, Rudy, my word is regressive.
Now, there is a lot for the Fox Texas trio to debate and discuss, and we will get ready to rumble right after this. The Fox Texas trio is back to talk about our vision of what a Patrick versus Abbott property tax debate could look like. My word, voodoo. That's borrowed from Bush 41 when he first ran for president against Ronald Reagan, and Reagan's budget ideas, calling them voodoo economics. Stephen, both sides in this current debate were initially dug in, still dug in despite the strong rhetoric. So do you think a compromise is going to come? You know, can it happen?
A compromise will happen. We already know that this is a Republican priority. They don't want egg on their face, even though they kind of have it on their face right now. It's going to happen. The real question is, will it happen in this 30-day special session, or will it be special session 2 and other priorities get pushed to special session 3?
Greg, you know, this budget surplus didn't come just from property taxes. The extra money includes increases in sales activity, gas prices, even inflation. There's a lot of small business owners in that part of Southeast Texas. Senator Paul Bettencourt, the architect of the Senate plans from Houston, is he getting any pushback from those businesses there in the Houston area?
Rudy, just for the record, none of this money came from property taxes. That said, on the issue of pushback, Senator Bettencourt tells me that as soon as constituents find out how much their tax bill falls with the permanent homestead exemption increase proposed in the upper chamber, potential critics become supporters. Bettencourt also told me the Senate has offered an array of business-specific exemptions to sweeten the pot for the House, all of which he says they've rejected. And make no mistake, while the House leadership talks about supporting small businesses with their all-compression plan, it's the biggest, wealthiest businesses that would absolutely rake it in. Now, when I asked if the lieutenant governor would be willing to drop his proposed homestead exemption from $100 to $80K and give the House the difference, Bettencourt said he doesn't believe Patrick will bend.
Yeah, I don't buy the boogeyman argument about these big payouts to the big property owners. But, Stephen, I think regardless of what compromise plan is passed, people continue to be taxed out of their homes because property taxes are no longer calculated on appraised values, not on the actual purchase. And, you know, that just doesn't be fair. I spoke to people here in Austin. They want that kind of reform. Any talk about that in DFW?
Oh, yeah. I mean, any property owner is going to say, hey, I'm paying too much. I mean, not even to count inflation. I mean, property taxes and values were high before inflation. And so it's something that everyone wants. I think a lot of voters aren't going to really look into all the details of this back and forth. And I think the final product will be somewhat of a compromise in both chambers of getting that compression and homestead exemption.
Yeah, a lot of details, but don't read those details, right? Hey, the comptroller back in January warned lawmakers the extra cash may be an exception, not the norm. So if this surplus essentially is one-time money to be spent, you know, Greg, has Harris County Democrats offered a wish list? Do you know anything like that?
Rudy, I think it's fair to say Democrats would spend every nickel on anything but tax relief. Public schools, teacher raises, and health care seem to be their biggest priorities. Look, I want to address the governor's proposal to completely eliminate property tax. Aside from economists saying it's a mega risky for a state to rely almost solely on sales tax as a principal revenue source, we'd have to raise the rate to something like 16 cents on every dollar.
All right, it's a knockout. To see this interview or any of our past interviews, go to our YouTube pages.
And follow us on social media.
A lot of debate will continue in Austin and across our state. And let's not forget a summertime possible impeachment trial. So make sure to join us next Sunday for Texas, The Issue Is. And remember to let us know what you think the issue is.